Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Lee County Port Authority meeting for the Board of Port Commissioners and Airport Special Management Committee. Today is May 4th, 2023, and I've got 9:31 in the morning. Let's rise this morning for our invocation. We have Pastor Pete Dolan from Riverside Church of Fort Myers. Pastor, good morning.
Good morning. Before we pray this morning, we want to take a moment of silence to honor and give thanks for the life of Bennett Moreland, his 14 years of service with us, the countless ways he touched our lives, making this world a brighter place. And so let's share in a moment to give thanks for his life. God, we give you thanks this morning. We thank you for precious life. You've given to us such an amazing world full of beauty and wonder. You've blessed us with family and with friends, some who are near and some who are far away. We thank you for these kindnesses. We pray for this team who've been brought together to steward the means on which so many of us depend to see our families, to enjoy your creation, and even to engage in our work around the world. Give to them wisdom and insight as they evaluate and plan and move in this important work. And we pray as you taught us, our Father who is in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. At this time, we will actually take public comment on the consent agenda. So I'd like to open the floor to public comment on the consent agenda. Has anyone come this morning to speak on any of those items? Just raise your hand and we'll call you up to the podium. You come to speak on the consent agenda? Oh, okay, great. No worries. All right, seeing no speakers on the consent agenda, we'll close public comment. Commissioners, do you have any items that you'd like to pull for discussion? Commissioner Pendergrass?
No items.
Do you have any
No
items?
items.
No items, sir.
Okay, and Mr. County Attorney, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just brief notation for the record, the Special Management Committee does not have a quorum present. So while they can certainly sit and participate, do so on an individual basis, but the committee could take no action.
Okay, excellent. Thank you,
sir.
Mr. County Attorney, for that. But there is a quorum present for the Board of Port Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
We're
You're good to
we're
go.
Good to go. Okay, excellent. Very good. All right, I've seen no items to be pulled for discussion by the board then. So does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion from Commissioner Ruane. Do we
I'll
have
second.
a second from Commissioner Greenwell? And do we have any further discussion on that? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. At this time, we'll move to the administrative agenda, and I'd like to ask our airport director to introduce the first item.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item on the administrative agenda is request the board ratify Hurricane Ian related purchases, and I'd ask Mr. McGonigal to introduce that item, please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. For the record, Brian McGonigal. 15 is to ratify emergency purchases, like Ben said, of Hurricane Ian. In total, we had $3 million in damage between the two airports. Before you today is 5 items that are 100,000 or more, 5 different items. Those items require board action. Anything below that Ben was able to do under his signature. The 5 items real quick. 2 here at RSW, a sweeper truck, $221,000. Emergency repairs to our cargo building over here for $248,000. And 3 buildings at Page had some significant damage: the fire station, the air cargo building, and the remediation of Page Field North. It's $944,000 for those 5 items. Out of the whole $3 million in damage, we already got 1.7 in insurance. We got it in the bank, and we're working with FEMA to. We will be getting more money from FEMA, but we're working with them right now.
Excellent. Any questions, commissioners, on this item? Okay, I see no questions. And one question I have just for our director, easy one. Is the airport back to full functionality now since Hurricane Ian, everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So everything's back up and running and
Yeah.
good. All right, any further questions then? All right, at this time, I'll open the floor for public comment on item 15. Has anyone come to speak on that item? Okay, I see no hands, so we'll move to the board. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Any further discussion? Any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 16.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 16 requests the board authorize the executive director to execute a task authorization to install 7 new credit card stations at the airport parking facility. And I'd ask Mr. McGonigal to further explain the item. Thank you.
Yeah, this item is with Hub Parking Technology. Hub does a great job for us. They install and maintain all of our meters, all the gate arms in and out of all the parking facilities. As you exit the garage, all those manned booths, we're gonna replace 7 of them with more up-to-date credit card readers as you leave the parking lot. So it's $241,000, including contingency for those 7.
Excellent, thank you
Yeah,
for
we-
that introduction. Any questions, commissioners? I see no questions. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in public comment on item 16? Any public comment? Okay, I see none. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I make a motion to
I'll
approve.
second that.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner
Thank you.
Greenwell, seconds from Commissioner Ruane. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 17.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Item 17 requests the board approve a contract with WW Granger for the purchase and delivery of facility maintenance, repair, and operations supplies. I'd ask Mr. Hennigan to further explain the item.
Good morning. For the record, Stephen Hennigan. Agenda 17, request board approve a contract with Granger, piggybacking the terms and conditions of the NASPO Cooperative Purchasing Program. It's a contract between the state of Florida and Granger. The contract will provide LCPA with access to Granger's large catalog of equipment and replacement parts, which will allow for the continuous operation of various systems and facilities at both airports.
Very good. Any questions, commissioners, on this item? I see no questions. Is there anyone who's come to speak in public comment on item 17? Item 17? Okay, I see no public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I will.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 18, Mr. Siegel.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 18 requests the board authorize the executive director to execute work authorization with Fuel Facility Management to perform some priority repairs on our rental car fueling facility system. Mr. Hennigan can further
Thank you.
explain that.
This agenda item allows the executive director to execute the work authorization with fuel facility management in the amount of $378,000 to continue the specific priority 1 repairs to the rent-a-car fueling systems at RSW. This is a continuation of the work that has come before the board previously, and as with the other like items, this is recoverable by the on-airport or through the on-airport rental car agencies.
Excellent. Any questions, commissioners, on this item? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 18? I see no public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell and the seconds from Commissioner Ruane. Any discussion? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 19.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 19 requests the board approve a 2-year contract renewal with Daifuku Elite Line Services to establish a service provider agreement for the operation and maintenance of our baggage handling system. And I'd ask Mr. Hennigan to further explain this item.
Thank you. This 2-year contract agreement renewal is with Daifuku Elite Line Services for the baggage handling system, operation, management, and maintenance of that system. The annual base amount is projected to be approximately $2.7 million per year for a 2-year term, plus any additional emergency services as authorized by LCPA.
Very good. Any questions, commissioners, on this one? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 19? Item 19. All right, I see no public comment. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
Move the item.
Motion for approval from
I'll second.
Commissioner Pendergrass and seconds from Commissioner Greenwell. Any further discussion on the item? Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 20 requests the board approve a piggyback contract with Lake County, Florida for the purchase of fire equipment and supplies, and I'd ask Mr. Hennigan to further explain this item as well.
Thank you. Again, this approval to piggyback a Lake County contract for the purchase of the fire equipment, supplies, and related services would be on an as-needed basis from the pool of awarded suppliers listed in the background information for the term of the agreement, and would include any renewals or extensions approved by Lake County.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions on this one? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 20? Item 20? Okay, I see no public comment. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion with the item.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell. We have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Ruane. Do we have any discussion? I see no discussion. Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 21.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 21 requests the board approve a second amendment with Brown Aviation for aircraft administration and flight services. Mr. Hennigan can further explain this item.
Thank you. This second amendment between LCPA and Brown Aviation further defines the roles and responsibilities regarding the maintenance oversight of the authority's aircraft, and also adds in language for pilot background check requirements.
Any questions on this item, commissioners, at all? Okay, I see no questions. Does anyone come to speak in public comment on item 21? Item 21? All right, I see no comments. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I will gladly do so.
Motion from Commissioner Ruane,
I'll second.
second from Commissioner Greenwell. Are there any discussion on this item? Okay, I see no discussion. Are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 22.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Item 22 is requesting the board accept a state grant from the state of Florida in the amount of $1.4 million for the rehab of our roads, and Emily Underhill can further explain this grant.
Good morning, Emily Underhill for the record. Item 22 is a $1.4 million grant from the Florida Department of Transportation to contribute towards the construction, providing for the realignment and repaving of Chamberlain Parkway, which is currently under construction and expected to be completed next year.
Very good. Any questions on this item, Commissioner? No, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 22? I see no comments. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I gladly will.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane,
I'll second.
second from Commissioner Greenwell. Any further discussion on this item? Just want to thank Florida Department of Transportation for the partnership and the grant, so thank you. All right.
Excellent, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item number 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 23 is another state grant from the state of Florida for the terminal expansion project that we have ongoing at Southwestport International Airport, and Emily can further explain that one.
All right, thank you. Item 23 is a $3.1 million grant from FDOT to contribute towards the ongoing construction of the RSW Terminal Expansion Phase 1 project. This brings FDOT's participation to date up to $39 million, with staff continuing to request additional funding.
Excellent. Any questions on this, Commissioners? All right, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 23? Okay, I see no comments. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll approve item number 23.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane,
I'll second.
second from Commissioner Greenwell. Any further discussion on this item? All right, I see no further discussion. Thanks again to FDOT, appreciate that. And are there any objections? No objections, that motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 24.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Item 24 is another state grant for the Southwest Florida International Airport rehab of our runway 624, and we hope this is the first of many grants for that project, and Emily can further.
All right,
explain this
item 24 is a $37,000 FDOT grant to be used towards the design to repave the single runway at RSW. The design firm has been selected, and we are currently negotiating a contract with them that will come to you soon. These grant dollars will help pay for that needed work and allow FDOT to supplement it in future years.
Very good. Any questions, Commissioners, on this? Just one question. So when do we plan on actually undertaking the work? When do you think we'll go under construction on this one?
Well, we're hoping to take the design contract back to you folks in June,
Okay.
and then we'll proceed with a conceptual design. That'll probably take a year, year and a half, and then we'll roll into the full design development. Then hopefully another year or so after that, we'll roll into construction.
So about 2 years away from construction then?
Yeah, 2 to 3. I think the end goal would be to have it constructed by 2027, because that'll be the 20-year life duration of the current pavement we have in place.
Good deal. And are we gonna have to do something similar to what we did last time where we used a,
We're hoping that we can do it that way, but we have to prove to FAA that we can.
okay,
Mhm.
excellent, good deal. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 24? All right, I see no speakers. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell, the seconds from Commissioner Pendergrass. Any discussion? Okay, I see no discussion. Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. All right, please introduce item number 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 25 is requesting the board accept another state grant. This one is for the airside pavement and rehab at the Southwest Florida International Airport. Emily can explain this one as well.
Okay, item 25 is a $1.2 million grant from FDOT to offset Port Authority costs related to a project that repaved many of our taxiways at RSW, which were completed last year. This grant reimburses some of our costs, which gives us more flexibility to fund other future projects.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions on that? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 25? Okay, I see no comments. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the item.
And I'll second it.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell and the seconds from Commissioner Ruane. Any further discussion? Are there any objections? No objections. That motion carries unanimously. Please introduce item 26.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 26 requests the board approve a federal grant to partially reimburse the Port Authority for costs related to our baggage handling system. And Emily can further explain
Alrighty.
this grant.
Item 26 is a federal grant from the TSA continuing to reimburse our costs for the RSW outbound baggage handling system that was installed in 2005 as the sixth automated inline system in the United States after 9/11. This grant is for $1.1 million and brings the total reimbursement to date to $20.5 million. The original amount expended was $21 million. We've been working diligently in Washington for 18 years to recover these monies. With your concurrence today, we are closing to recouping our original outlay of funds, and be assured that we will continue to work to secure the remaining $500,000 from the TSA.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions on this? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 26? Okay, I see no speakers. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll gladly move item 26.
All right, motion for approval from Commissioner Ruane,
I'll second.
second from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have any further discussion on this item? Just thank you for the hard work and the perseverance on that. Are there any objections? No objections, then that motion carries unanimously. And please introduce, actually, for item 27, I need to make an announcement that we are going to convene as the Board of County Commissioners. So at this time, we are convened as the Board of County Commissioners, and I'd like to ask that you introduce item 27.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask that the Assistant Port Attorney, Mark Trank, introduce the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. The purpose of this agenda item is to ask the Board of County Commissioners to direct to public hearing an ordinance that amends the Airport Rules and Regulations Ordinance, that's Lee County Ordinance 94-09, to establish and provide regulations for a new customer facility charge, or CFC, which applies to all rental car companies at the airport. And the purpose of this is to fund the contemplated improvements and expansion of facilities in connection with the ongoing growth at the airport.
Excellent. Commissioners, any questions on this item? Okay, I see no questions. Has anyone come to speak in public comment on item 27? I see no speakers. Does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the item.
Okay, motion for approval from Commissioner Greenwell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Pendergrass. Is there any further discussion? No? Are there any objections? No objections, then that motion carries unanimously. I'd like to announce at this time that we are reconvened as the Board of Port Commissioners. And let's go to Commissioner items. Commissioner Pendergrass, do you have any items?
No items today.
Okay, Commissioner Greenwell?
No items.
I have
No,
none.
sir.
Commissioner Ruane has no items. Does anybody have any committee appointments today? Commissioner Pendergrass?
No.
Commissioner Greenwell? I have none.
None.
Commissioner, okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll go to comments from the chair of the Airport Special Management Committee. I don't believe Randy's here today. Is
He's not
it-
here today.
He's our current.
I guess I could be acting chair.
We'll go by what, seniority, right? I think, there you go, all right.
Really, all we want to say is we're excited about the report, the workshop we're going to be having this morning. We really look forward to doing some things at Skyplex, and it sounds like we were moving in the right direction.
Excellent. Anything to add, Mr.?
No, I'm good with all that.
Yeah, good deal. Well, thank you guys for your work. We definitely appreciate the advice and counsel of the Airport Special Management
Thank
Committee.
you very much.
All right, at this time, we'll move to the Executive Director items. Mr. Executive Director, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. During March, we had over 1.1 million passengers travel through RSW, which was a decrease of 23% compared to March of 2022. The traffic leader in March was Delta with 229,000 passengers, and then rounding out the top 5 airlines was Southwest, United, American, and JetBlue. Page Field had 19,299 operations, which was a 37% increase compared to March 2022, which was a new monthly record. Much of this increase is due to pilot training and airport-based flight schools. RSW did finish out the first 4 months of the year solidly, being the 33rd busiest airport out of the top 40 in terms of TSA throughput, surpassing bigger airports like Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, Chicago Midway, and Sacramento, California. Although it is long-range planning, we are starting to see some year-over-year increases in planned flights and seats by our airline partners. So that is good news for the summer months, the upcoming summer months. I would like to take a moment to recognize one of our employees, Ethan. Where are you, Ethan? There you are. Can you stand up? Thank you. So Ethan is our Senior Manager of Maintenance in Maintenance Administration, and Ethan recently received a $10,000 scholarship from the American Association of Airport Executives to support his studies for an MBA with a data analytics concentration at Florida Gulf Coast University. This was a very competitive process based on AAAE's membership status, academic achievements, and records, work experience, and a submission of a personal statement. Ethan is a graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and has been with LCPA since September of 2008, and we're just very proud of this accomplishment and his award, so we just wanted to recognize him today. So congratulations. And just lastly, I just would like to mention that on Sunday, May 14th, we will be celebrating an important milestone at RSW. That date will mark 40 years since the airport opened on May 14th, 1983. From 8 airlines to 6 destinations on opening day to 14 airlines serving 58 nonstop destinations today, we've come a long way in the past 4 decades. We're very grateful to all our airlines, all our employees, concessions, federal agencies, business partners for the more than 236 million passengers who have traveled through our airports over those past 40 years. And I'd really like to just thank the board, of course, for all of their support, our Airport Special Management Committee for all of your support, really in making us one of the most successful airports in the nation. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioners, any comments? No? I just got to say, I as somebody who had a 40th birthday a couple years ago, that's a big deal, right? I hope we do like the balloons and the, you're over the hill now, airport.
Yeah. We have some events planned.
There you go.
During the week, so you'll be seeing some things on social media if you are on social media. So we got some things planned.
There you go.
A couple of years ago or a couple of days
Yeah,
ago?
I'm 42, so it was a couple years ago.
I think someone's rubbing
When
in
was
their
your
age.
40th birthday? I'm just kidding.
We have no comment, thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. All right, at this time, we'll move to the Port Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, we have no further comment.
No further comments. All right. Well, at this time, we'd like to take public comment on other matters. So this is the time for public comment on non-agenda items. Would anybody like to speak this morning? Okay, well, we'll close public comment then at this time. And I see no further business before us, so we will adjourn the port meeting and we'll go right into the workshop if that's okay.
Sure.
All right, so we are adjourned at the port meeting, and I'd like to call to order the workshop for the Lee County Board of Port Commissioners and Airport Special Management Committee. And Mr. Executive Director, I'll hand it back over to you as your team assembles.
Thank you. So today's workshop, we're gonna talk about two primary items. The first one being the budget. And we'd like to discuss, first and foremost, the RSW operating budget, then the Page Field operating budget, and then there's two items within the operating budgets from both airports that we'd like to discuss. First being, we'd like to wrap up the parking rate discussion that we had at our last workshop
Thank
for
you.
RSW, and then further discuss some of our new methodologies that we wanted to implement on the Page Field fuel products, and how we calculate the pricing for those Page products. So with that, with your okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn it over to Brian McGonigal and have him kick off the first part of the workshop. And then the second part of the workshop, the second item on the agenda is going to be Skyplex. So, thank you.
Okay, good morning. So I have a few slides on next year's budget. So here we are today, workshop May 4th. May 24th, we'll have the airlines in like we do every year. We'll present the budget to them. ASMC in June 29th, we'll come back to you with the final. And then September's the public hearings. Our passengers, last year we had 11 million, that was unprecedented. We're forecasting 9.2 million this year. Right now, we are down through 6 months into the year, into the fiscal year, through March, we're down 21%. This number here, this 9.2 million, is 16% down. We think the summer looks like it's coming back a little bit. The seats coming in are more than last year. So we feel confident this 9.2 million, and then we're budgeting 10.1 million next year. We meet with the airlines. We ask the airlines for forecasts, and 6 out of the 8 major airlines agree with that 10.1 million. So we feel pretty confident with that. It's the same thing with landed weight. Landed weight follows passengers, so it's the same story. It's an important calculation in our landing fee. So we have the budgets back from the departments. We've got a really good draft of where we think the numbers are going to land. The departments did a great job. We appreciate that. Here is last year's 53 million in operating is going up to 54, so it's only a $900,000 increase. I highlighted a few of the big increases that we are seeing next year. Our insurance, just our property insurance is going up 1.6 million. 101% increase in our property insurance. A new item that we've never had before is the CRDC. That is our remote loading dock as part of the terminal expansion project. We're going to pay an operator $1.6 million to run it. That is going to be offset by revenues through the concessions. Just inflation is at 5%. You're seeing that down in the county too. Utilities is going up $635,000. But our operating capital, this is where we buy all our fleet vehicles and shuttle buses, is actually going down 4.7 million less, because we just got $2 million of buses in the door for the parking lot, and we currently have POs open for 23 more APD vehicles. So we're going to complete that purchase this year. So again, operating is not going up that much, which is good overall. So our CARES money, you guys, commissioners asked, we got, just to recap, we got 79 million, and there's our checkbook every year. We're very fortunate to get these numbers. We're plugging in 10 million next year, leaves us with 6. It expires in May of 25. We'll use it all up. Personnel side of the house, we're allocating a 5% pay plan adjustment on October 1st. Commissioners, this is only a placeholder. We're going to wait for more direction from you, but we are just putting a placeholder in. More to follow on that. We're allocating resources for 9 new positions for a total of 880,000. Interestingly enough, we did get 31 requests for new positions. We scrubbed it and scrubbed it. We thought 19 were they were all justified, but we really thought that 19 were well justified. But we're being very cautious. We're only gonna put in 9, we're asking for 9 positions. There is still some uncertainty, so we don't wanna go in with a lot of personnel costs, new bodies. And if the year turns out a little bit better, we may come back to you mid-year next year with more positions. So there's just the 9 positions scattered throughout the different departments. So when you put all the numbers in our model, this is what happens here. Here's the passengers. Airline revenue will go up a little bit. This non-airline revenue is 7.4 million. It is literally 2 numbers. It is investment income, as interest rates go up, is going up about 4 million, and our parking lot is gonna go up about 3 million. That makes up most of it. The CPE, cost per employment, the lower the better, is coming in at 813. Anything, medium-sized hub airport, anything 850 or lower is a really good target for us. So we feel pretty comfortable with this number. Our days cash hand, it stays strong, and our coverage is strong. And then Page Field, we are projecting to sell 2.3 million gallons next year, less than this year's budget is slightly less. And when you put in the revenues and expenses, we're pretty much flat, our surplus this year, 705 to 735. Again, we'll come back to you with more detail in June. Ongoing capital projects next year, terminal expansion, you can see that going. It's 331 million, that's ongoing. The ongoing design of Concourse E, 46 million for design. We'll be back to you. The 60% numbers will be in this summer. We're at 30% right now. The rehab roads is going on the north side. You can see that right now, 20 million. And we just kicked off the FMY South Quad, approximately 80 hangars at Page, and that just started construction just a few weeks ago. Those are the big projects that you're going to continue to see next year. And if there's no question on the budget, I'll just got a few slides on the parking rates.
Any questions on the budget, Commissioner?
I'm good right now.
No, okay.
Great.
Are we getting all the insurance discounts we're entitled to? I know insurance has been a crazy market. Our insurance rates were up like 1.6 million.
Yeah, the property insurance. We have a broker that shopped it for us, and we expected an increase, and we're certainly not getting discounts. But I think the broker did a good job. We expected an increase. We didn't think it was going to be 1.6 million, but I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you.
So we'll jump right into parking rates real quick. If you recall, we talked briefly on parking rates in March. We listened to you. We've got some good recommendations. We appreciate it. We had a consultant update his parking rate study. He's here today if you have any questions. So our rates right now in the garage, first 20 minutes free, $3 an hour, and the daily max is 18. Today, our long-term rate is $2 an hour, $11 maximum, and $60 the first week, and then we do have a discount for the second week. That's currently. We have not changed our rates since 2016. After, these are our recommended rates after talking to you last month. We don't want to do anything with the hourly rate in the garage, but we want to move the daily max from $18 to $24 a day. I'm going to show you the revenue impacts to that. No change in the long-term lot, keep it at 11. We do recommend that we discontinue that second week right here. We found that no airports do that. The first week is fine. It's $60 a week, and that's just gonna continue.
And if, Mr. Chair, if I may? and
Yes, sir.
Brian, yeah, these recommended rates it's really just a recap of the discussion, if you will, and direction that we were given at the last workshop in March. So that's exactly what
Yep.
the direction we were given
Yeah.
from March. Just wanted to confirm that, so.
Yep. Right, no change. And with those recommended rates, here we are here, $24. Here's the rest of the state. We're right in line. And at 11, we're actually a little bit low. But we don't recommend going up too much higher than that because it will compete with the off-airport competitors. And the impact of doing that, this is our best guess, is here's a baseline, 20 million. We're assuming that 9%, this is just, we're gonna see what really happens, but we're assuming 9% of the parkers in the garage will go to the long-term lot. That's just an assumption. It's going down 443. We want people to leave the garage and go to the long-term lot because the garage is getting too crowded. And with that, and in eliminating that second discount in the long-term lot, 1.8 million more. So we think conservatively, we're gonna make about 1.4 million more in parking revenue. And if there's no questions on that, I can wrap it up with fuel at Page. No questions, okay. Like Ben said, we briefly talked to you in March about fuel at Page. There's 3 products at Page. Jet A full service, that's for a turbine jet aircraft. Our full service avgas product, and then our self-service avgas product. Our current fuel methodology, it's been in place for many years. It is just a cost of fuel plus a margin. Last time we raised the margins was in fiscal year 21 by 10 to 20 cents. And we're finding that our pricing methodology does not cover our operating costs, and it's becoming a non-traditional way of pricing fuel. So we hired a consultant to look at a different price model where we cover our expenses. I'm going to show you that. And this is the current model right now. And in jet, we're making money, and in avgas, we're losing money. Avgas is very expensive, very labor intensive. But avgas is only 13% of our fuel. But it's very labor expensive to bring in. We knew we were losing money. Why do we need to make more money? We've got a lot of projects going on at Page that we have to match grants. We've got T-hangers going up. We've got an additional tank we're going to put in. So we've got some projects there that require a match. So we want to bring more revenue into Page to help with this. And also, our costs are going up. Electricity's gone up 27% since fiscal year 20. Material costs are going up. Vendor labor costs and our personnel costs are going up. So what we did is our proposed fuel pricing methodology. We hired Dr. David Byers down here at Cordirex. He's well known in the FBO world. And all we want to do is cover our cost of running, our full cost of running the airport. So in Jet A, this is the new way. It'd be cost of goods sold, plus the cost to deliver, plus the margin, and plus an air cost recovery fee. Avgas and self-serve, we don't feel that we need a margin here. We just want cost of goods sold plus expenses and plus the air cost recovery fee. Avgas, I'm going to show you some numbers. We think Avgas self-serve, if we keep that $1 below avgas full service. We want to push people over to the self-serve fuel farm, and we're gonna keep that $1 lower than the regular full service. So the airfield cost recovery fee, it's a new fee to us. It's not new at all to the industry, but we're going to implement this, which is what we're proposing to implement this. An ACR, an air cost recovery fee, it recovers all the costs in operating the airfield, and it applies to all fuel sales. It's direct labor, indirect labor, capital recovery, it's return on investment. Again, new to us, but certainly not new to the industry. And if we, commissioners, this is kind of interesting, these are the posted prices on April 25th. We pulled these up. Those are the prices on April 25th. If we did this new pricing implementation fully, it would go from 516 to 587. And the avgas full serve would go from 598 to 646. We recommend, and then self-serve is $1 less. Here's some posted prices on the same day a few weeks ago. Our neighbors up the street at Punta Gorda, and this is Naples here. And RSW is the FBO here. And we just picked a couple of similar FBOs across the country in Chicago, Georgia, and up in Massachusetts.
And if I can just,
Yep.
if I could just say, so you may ask, why are we picking Chicago, Peachtree, Georgia, and, Massachusetts, but those are pretty large markets for us in terms of where the aircraft are coming from Page Field. So obviously, when people are purchasing fuel, they're looking at, pricing, from those airports, or buying it, obviously at our airport. So those were, markets that we felt would be good comparisons for us. So I just wanted to make sure the board understood why we were selecting those particular airports.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
So this is a recommendation. We don't recommend doing that in 1 year. We recommend doing it over a 3-year period. With approval, we'll incorporate this pricing strategy into the next Page Field rates and fees document. And estimated annual net revenues at full implementation after 3 years be approximately 1.6 million more, which I have a slide there. There it is right there. So this is our current pricing, 13.3 million. With full implementation, it would be 15 with a $1.6 million increase. And I hope, that's all I have. I hope you found that helpful. If there's glad to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns?
I'd personally like to hear, Scott's really been involved in the past, engaged about the pricing of the fuels as his end. Do you have any comments about that since you are a user and you mentioned that before about the fuel costs and stuff?
Yes, thank you, I appreciate it. Do you have any accommodation for based aircraft as opposed to transient?
Do we have
In other words, I've seen where airports, APF included, offers a self-serve fuel price to based aircraft out of the truck.
There will be, you're talking about discount programs for based aircraft and
Correct.
versus, the answer is yes. There will be different levels of discounted programs within the overall program. This is kind of the bookend, if you will, for pricing, but there are going to be discounts as part of our rates and fees policy at Page that take into account the different types of users that we do have.
What's
So
your
ba-
average
base-
gas sale? Do you know offhand, Steve here?
the sale?
I mean, excuse me, Scott?
Scott, can you answer that?
Is it like 18 gallons or something like that?
Yeah.
Pretty small.
Yeah, good morning, Scott Sheets, Pagefield. Yeah, it's around 20 gallons, average uplift, depending on which program, whether it's based, itinerant, what have you, but overall around 20 gallons.
Are you?
I don't have the exact number with me right now, but you're about spot on.
Are you anticipating bringing in 100 unleaded?
Eventually, yes. I mean, when that comes to be and it is a direct drop-in replacement and we have a good supply chain for that, then, I mean, I think the whole industry is gonna be forced to go that route and have the unleaded product at that point.
But you're not gonna do it to the exclusion of the low lead.
Not until there's a good supply chain of the other product and it's readily available.
And Jet A sales, what's your average sale there in gallons? Much bigger. I'm sure.
Yeah, somewhere probably between the 300 and 400 gallon range across all the different.
Dollar?
No, I'm sorry, gallons,
Okay.
gallons per uplift across all the different tiers.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Jason.
That's all I got. So,
All right. So commissioners, I guess at this time, if there's no further questions, then we could move to the next part of the workshop then. Anything else? All right. Looks like the new methodologies are competitive with surrounding airports, and looks like all the input from the last workshop where we talked about those items was included, so
yeah, it was very helpful. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right. So with that, if we're ready to move into the Skyplex part of the workshop, I'd like to say that, we engaged Cushman Commercial Property of Southwest Florida, Gary Tasman's firm, in September. They got work in September of 2022. They've done a lot of work since then, and just wrapping up phase one of the scope of their contract. And today, what we want to do is discuss with you all of their findings in their phase one work, and obviously get some feedback from the board in terms of what they found and the direction that we're heading. And after that, then we could really legitimately jump into phase two. So we're looking forward to the presentation and feedback from the advisory committee and the board. So with that, I'll turn it over to Don and go from there. Thank you.
Good deal. And Mr. Scrogenbar, are you okay if it's a workshop format? If people have questions, can they jump in the middle and ask them? You're okay with
I would prefer if they would hold them to the end, if that's possible.
that? Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you very much.
Agreeable?
So, yeah,
Sure,
we'll hold
thank
our
you.
questions till the end then, but okay, that sounds great. Very good.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead then.
Because we have other members of our team here that may be more efficient at answering the specific question that you might raise.
Gotcha.
So, good.
Okay.
Brian, we're here to help you increase your airport revenue. So, all right. So, board, committee members, thank you very much for the opportunity to present our high-level overview of our phase one work and findings related to the Skyplex development. For those who may not know me, I'm Don Scrotenborn, serving as Senior Project Manager for this assignment. Today's overview is supported by considerable research, details, and facts that can be found in your deliverables that were, I believe, sent to you last Friday. Why I'm the one presenting today, please understand there is a full team behind me that composes of over 15 individuals that brings specific disciplines in accomplishing this assignment. A couple of them are with us today to be here to answer any questions that you may have following the presentation. We have Gary Tasman, who is CEO and Principal Broker of Cushman Wakefield Commercial Property, Southwest Florida. As many as you know, Cushman Wakefield Commercial Property, Southwest Florida is a local presence with a global connectivity in providing world-class brokerage and real estate services. We also have with us today Josh Philpott, who is the Senior Planning Associate with Stantec. Stantec is an international company that provides services in planning, engineering, interior design, survey, and environmental services. We also have with us today Chris LaTurner, CEO, and Martin Anstey, Senior Vice President of MXD Strategist. MXD Strategist is a global consulting firm based out of Vancouver, British Columbia, that specializes in economic and market studies, planning, and development strategies for airport development. We believe the partnership between Cushman, Wakefield, Southwest Florida Properties, as well as Stantec and MDX represent best-in-class service, thought leadership, and the experience that we promised you when we were pitching for this assignment. Looking a little bit at where we are currently in our process and where we're going in the future, is that this slide represents the deliverables in support of our phase 1 process, that, and also the ones that I'll be speaking about today in my presentation, consist of existing conditions, airport development practice, best practices and case studies, market and economic analysis, and our recommended positioning. Our process commenced around the 1st of October, and we are beginning our transition from phase 1 to phase 2 currently at this time. Phase 2 is our programming, planning, and financial feasibility study. This is really where the rubber hits the road. This then takes in everything that we have learned and studied in our phase 1 process, also through our stakeholder interviews that we are currently conducting at this point, and with staff input. And we put it all together in shaping the vision and an execution strategy for Skyplex. We do this by preparing a conceptual master development plan. We also prepare preliminary construction and mitigation cost, determine optimal lease rates, and determine the net present value and financial return that the Lee County Port Authority can expect on its investment. The third phase is the entitlement and planning phase. And then the fourth is our marketing, brokerage, and transaction phase. Our special conditions were broken into 4 components: land use policy and zoning summary, environmental impact analysis, existing conditions analysis, and a development constraint opportunity framework, which is currently the slide up on the screen. While it's difficult to see and fully comprehend at this scale, the development framework contains all of the currently known existing conditions and constraints on the Skyplex property, and sets the baseline parameters and template for our upcoming and programming phase. As part of this exercise, we studied the 2010 vision plan, the ongoing master plan that you're well aware of, the current permits and zoning, including the current zoning amendment that the property is going through, and also aviation and non-aviation lease documents. In terms of regulatory conditions, we looked at the 335 acres of currently zoned land within Skyplex. Some of the existing infrastructure is water, sewer, stormwater, roads, as well as any aeronautical infrastructure such as the airport surveillance, radar, wind shear alert system, and the Vortex system. These previous planning efforts and existing infrastructure provide a great framework to work from in support of our new vision for Skyplex. Lastly, we studied the environmental considerations consisting of wetlands, protected species, and an understanding of the National Environmental Protection Act, otherwise known as NEPA, that this project will have to go through. We're in the process of finalizing the jurisdictional determination to determine the exact amount and quality of the wetlands on the site. Based on preliminary work to date, there's approximately 730 acres of wetlands in the study area. This is depicted on the map in front of you with the yellow, orange, and red. Yet the yellow is what we believe to be a lower quality wetland. The orange will be a medium, and the red is high quality wetland. So as we move forward with our planning, we'll be careful with this because we would prefer, if we had wetland impacts, that they would be of the lower quality. Obviously, there's more involved and there's more cost involved with the higher quality of wetlands. So, but all of the extent of these wetland impacts will be looked at as part of our phase 2 process. I should note that these type of environmental constraints are certainly not uncommon to development, particularly in Southwest Florida. It's a matter of fact, they're looked at as an asset. It's a matter of demonstrating minimization through effective, thoughtful planning, understanding the mitigation that it's required to offset the impacts, and navigating through the agencies. Please understand why I use the term constraints, which has a somewhat negative and connotation, limited connotation to it. In today's development, these type of constraints are considered an asset. They offer an opportunity to demonstrate sustainability. That's a critical balance between development and environment. They enhance the supporting development through vistas of natural preserves and potential opportunity for passive recreational opportunities. However, what's not common to most developments is the NEPA, as I said, the National Environmental Protection Act. In accordance with FAA regulations, all new developments within the study area will be required to go through the NEPA process. Depending on the type and the potential extent of the type of the project and the extent of the impacts, there are two processes for review through the NEPA. One is a documented category exclusion, which is a much shorter and simpler process. And the other is an environmental enhancement, or assessment, I should say, which is a more lengthy and involved process. The extent of this review will also be determined as part of our Phase 2 process. These existing conditions, when coupled with market and economic analysis that I'll be presenting the highlights of here shortly, form the foundation for a planning framework to take advantage of both short-term goals and the implementation of a long-term vision. Moving a little bit to our airport development case studies. This slide is a simple representation of the 8 case studies that were undertaken as part of our Phase 2 study. It does not reflect the 5 or 6 different airports that we studied also in Florida. But these were identified as different economic sectors at leading innovative airports throughout the world. These airports were identified for best practices in each of these sectors and to identify if there was an alignment with RSW and Skyplex for some of these emerging sectors, which we believe there is. With respect to time, I will speak only to a couple of these findings. But again, all of the detail behind these case studies were delivered or are in your deliverables. Turning to economic and logistics for a moment. Since the global pandemic, this sector has experienced significant growth. We can see that all around us here at RSW, with up and down the I-75 corridor, as well as the Alico and Treeline corridor. Tremendous amount of logistics and manufacturing moving forward. The growth rates as high as 20% have been experienced in this sector since 2020. Commercial giants and retailers have been rapidly expanding near or at airports in support of logistic distributions and fulfillment. A great example of this is the Amazon Prime Air Hub at the Cincinnati Airport. It's a $1.5 billion project on 600 acres. It's directly responsible for over 2,000 jobs. This Amazon Prime Global facility also supports other airline partners such as DHL. Looking briefly at healthcare, life sciences, and medical devices, this sector desires locations adjacent to airports in support of their research and development for manufacturing of life science products, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. We are seeing airports develop strategic partnerships with multinational corporations and logistic providers in servicing this sector. An example of this is the FedEx Cold Chain Center at the Memphis Airport. It's an 80,000 square foot facility and is a leading edge in the healthcare logistics and is used to protect the integrity of temperature-sensitive perishables and healthcare products, which has become even more critical due to the handling of global vaccines. Looking a little bit at aviation and aerospace, this sector too has experienced significant growth since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, with resurgence of tourism, defense spending, and private investment. Airports offer a strategic location for this sector that brings high-skilled jobs and economic impact. This sector is also one that utilizes this airside to landside interface, which Skyplex is so very fortunate to have and is a critical advantage over other regional airports. Great example of this is the Winnipeg International Airport, home to North America's largest aerospace cluster, which is anchored by the 31 Aerospace headquarters, responsible for over 44 high-skilled jobs and produces over $1.6 billion in annual aerospace revenue. Looking a moment at the alternative mobility in heliports and vertiports, this too is another fast-growing sector with focus on e-commerce and innovation in batteries, electrification, AI, and machine learning. The largest concentration of this investment is taking place right here in Florida. This sector offers an opportunity for research and development as well as advanced manufacturing of components, amenities, and vehicles. Example of this is the eVTOL partnership between Fort and Lilium at the Lake Nona adjacent to the Orlando Airport. This partnership is seeking to connect cities across Florida with commercial eVTOL flights and is establishing the first vertiport in partnership with Travistock, the developer of Lake Nona. Going to turn now to the economic highlights of the economic analysis. So this slide illustrates some of the dynamic employment sectors that are converging around RSW in the Skyplex area. No question that I-75 is an evolving economic corridor, and Skyplex is at the center of this tri-county economic unit. It's buttressed to the north by Punta Gorda Airport, which is currently developing an impressive logistics hub. And to the south is Naples Airport, one of the busiest and fastest private aviation hubs in the country. Every asset class, whether it's logistics, leisure, retail, hotel, or education, is converging all around RSW and Skyplex. Particularly the development momentum that we see is concentrated around the I-75 Alico tree line corridor as depicted on this slide. This economic corridor is further supported by the proximity of residential population with strong spending profiles. Looking and touching on a few demographics from our economic study, within the Tri-County area or region, there is currently 1.32 million full-time residents. This population has grown by 59% since 2000. This full-time resident population is projected to increase to 1.8 million or 36% by 2045. This does not account for the seasonal increase, which can nearly double the population during a 3 or 4 month period throughout the year. Average household income is very similar to the US average at $98,200. And while our population of 65 or older is nearly double the US average, we are starting to see this demographic reverse as employment opportunities increase and diversify. The Tri-County employment area currently supports 702,000 jobs. This number has grown by 49% over the last 20 years. While slow to change, we are seeing more diversification of jobs in the local economy, with traditional employment sectors like leisure and tourism and construction that continue to dominate the economy. Other sectors like healthcare, biotech, manufacturing, logistics, and education are quickly emerging. As proof and reinforcement of this tremendous positive aspect that has taken place in our fast-growing region, the Lee County Economic Development Office indicates that there will be between $60 and $90 billion of investment into our local economy over the next 5 years. and we believe Skyplex could be on the forefront of capturing a large portion of this investment. Looking a little bit at some key takeaways from some of these employment sectors. In terms of healthcare and biotech, 60% of the healthcare jobs across Southwest Florida are in Lee County. Healthcare sector represents 14% of the Lee County's economy, and this sector is projected to grow by 15% over the next 7 years. Quickly, industrial logistics provides nearly 6% of the jobs, employing over 9,600 employees, and this sector is projected to grow by 20% over the next 10 years. Education, we are so very fortunate to have FGCU located just 6 miles from Skyplex. This offers a tremendous value and synergy and an opportunity for the success of Skyplex. In addition, interest from other regional universities such as South Florida and Central Florida are looking to expand their local real estate footprint in Lee County. Leisure, as we know, this sector is largely driven by tourism. Lee County welcomed over 4.6 million visitors in 2021, translating to $3.7 billion from visitor expenditures. Skyplex has a strategic location given the proximity to JetBlue Park and retail amenities to take advantage of this sector. Turning then to our real estate market analysis. This slide illustrates a summary of the projected market demand within the study area for each identified sector over a 10 and 20-year period. While our market study projects some very strong growth within these sectors, I would like you to keep in mind that these projected demands are based on doing nothing more than serving the market. It does not consider any type of catalyst project. A fundamental investment into a catalyst project can change the path of the demand curve to generate even higher market demand. An example of this is the Lead Sports Accelerator facility in Lake Nona. This one-of-a-kind facility bolsters technology startups. This innovation lab attracts companies from around the world that come to hone their ideas, their processes, and their execution. Since the completion of this type of catalyst project in Lake Nona, it is directly attributable to the formation of other types of research and development facilities, hotel rooms, and restaurants in the adjacent area. It is also a proven fact that providing shovel-ready master plan will also attribute to a larger capture of the market demand. We're going to take a few minutes and look at some of these markets. So the industrial market, which includes logistics warehouse, flex office, and flex industrial. We find that Skyplex is immersed in the middle of an emerging cluster of this industrial logistics development. As I said, you can see it all around us as you drove in. Our local area contains over 37% of the submarket projects currently under construction. So on this slide, we indicate all of the industrial and logistics that was built prior to 2018, and the green dot represents everything that's been built since 2018. And so you can see that the largest cluster is up and down this I-75 corridor and near the airport, and that's only going to continue as land becomes available. Skyplex offers strong development characteristics for logistics, such as interstate accessibility, limited development industrial land in the area, high-profile tenants in the area, and the proximity to the airport. Because of these strong market attributes, we believe Skyplex can capture a significant portion of the projected market demand with as much as 5.9 million square feet over 10 years and perhaps up to as much as 14.6 million square feet over 20 years. Looking at the retail market, this Skyplex has the potential to become the next generation shopping, dining, and entertainment destination, similar in nature to what we see at Mercado. There is a latent demand in the local area for a new format of retail dining development. Skyplex offers excellent retail development site characteristics. The rapid population growth, strong visibility and accessibility along Daniels, and the synergy with JetBlue Park. It is also backed by strong demographics and spending pattern in the local area. What's up on the screen here is really just a heat map, if you will, of the household incomes in the area. And green is positive, and the darker the green, the better. That means that the household incomes are even higher or at the highest. I would just ask for you to ignore, obviously, the red that makes up the airport, because there is no household incomes within that area, and that's why it is red in that. Because of these strong market attributes, we believe of the 1.7 million square feet of projected market demand in the submarket, that Skyplex can capture a minimum of 175,000 square feet over 10 years and up to 350,000 square feet over 20 years. In terms of the office market, Skyplex has the opportunity to develop a tech office campus. What is illustrated here on this slide is, oops, pardon me, getting ahead of myself. Go back here. What's illustrated on this slide in the blue dots are some of the offices, or I'm still not back to where I need to be, are some of the offices that have been built of recent time, but they're all individual, standalone, and not in a cluster that really support one another or other items around it or other amenities around it. Skyplex offers an above average development characteristic for office, such as travel time for executives, prestigious tenants, clustering of office activity, and the access to higher education. Because of these strong market attributes, we believe of the 1.6 million square feet of projected market demand in the submarket, that Skyplex can capture a minimum of 300,000 square feet over 10 years and as much as 500,000 square feet over 20 years. Turning lastly to the hotel market, we believe that Skyplex represents the opportunity for multiple hotel developments. The local area contains over 40% of the new hotels that are currently been built recently. That's referenced here on this slide. As you can see, again, this I-75 economic corridor and near the airport is where all of the hotels have been built of recent years. Skyplex supports an above average hotel development site characteristics with proximity to the airport, strong tourism market, and the local employment hub. Because of these strong market attributes, we believe of the 1,400 rooms of the projected market demand in the submarket, that Skyplex can capture a minimum of 350 rooms over 10 years and as much as 1,000 rooms over 20 years. But to achieve these levels, we believe it will be necessary that it be supported with multi-purpose conference venues and strong amenities. Moving on to our recommended positioning based on all of this. So taking into consideration all that we've learned from the airport development case studies, the regional economic drivers, and the submarket real estate market, our recommended direction for Skyplex includes hotel and meeting space, retail dining and leisure hub, FlexTech office campus, specialized temperature logistics, and advanced air mobility, along with fixed-based operations. So imagine for a moment with me this lifestyle commercial component of Skyplex development that includes restaurants, entertainments, hotels, and meeting space that front Daniels and then stretches down along Skyplex Boulevard to the existing large water management lake that offers wonderful waterfront settings and the potential for passive and active recreational opportunities. On the bottom would be the airside edge that would contain cargo, alternative air mobility facilities, fixed-based operations, mechanical repair operations, and specialized logistic operations. And then inserted and integrated in the middle strategically within the landside to airside area is this FlexTech office and BioLife campus that supports both the landside and the airside developments. This begins to shape a practical vision with real-time data that offers a unique and exciting development typology that's never been seen or done in the region before. In framing Skyplex's development opportunity, we conclude 10 key findings and initiatives. Skyplex has a significant competitive edge that can't be found elsewhere in the region with its landside to airside interface. The ability to leverage a fast-growing and strong demographic profile, the ability to take advantage of the growing demand of flex tech office space. Skyplex has the competitive edge for industrial development given its adjacency to the airport. This competitive edge will only increase with limited land supply in the area for industrial development. The nearby presence of advanced manufacturing, biotech, and higher education supports the potential synergies and partnerships for a broader public-private campus concept. An emerging bio-life science cluster is surrounding area that can take advantage of the air to landside interface. There is a latent opportunity for food and beverage retail and entertainment concepts within the area. The opportunity for multiple hotels with meeting and conference space, and that should be located, near the retail and food and beverage nodes, which becomes then a very vibrant and engaging destination. An opportunity to leverage a natural waterscape as an amenity in providing waterfront settings on the large existing lake within Skyplex. And we conclude Skyplex offers an opportunity to create a next generation employment campus. We believe Skyplex has the potential to create an I-75 corridor inland waterfront employment campus, as Miramar and Wild Blue have successfully done for resort-style residential. A couple of visuals to set the framework for the new Skyplex vision. On the left, we have Celebration. As you can see, it's a wetland water feature that is prominent there within Celebration. It's supported with local retail and restaurants around it, and there's a little boutique hotel on the left-hand side. On the right is Lake Nona, and again, this is adjacent to the Orlando International Airport, and what we're looking at here is the KPMG Lake House. This $450 million, 800,000 square foot state-of-the-art learning and innovation center is located on 55 acres and was done in cooperation with the Hyatt Hotels. Professionals come to the lake house to invest in their professional development, spark innovation, foster new relationships, and focus on their health and well-being. Another example of a great catalyst project. In closing, we are truly excited about this opportunity in creating a new vision for Skyplex and in working with staff as we commence our programming and planning phase. I want to thank you for your attention, and the team and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Here's what questions do you have?
Don, thank you for the great presentation, all the information, and where we go from here. And my question, I don't know if it's for you or for staff or Ben, these properties as we go forward with this advertising property, is still going to be doing leasing of the property?
We think it could possibly become more than just a lease. I mean, that's going to be the basis. We think that there's opportunities for other considerations in the future of how capital stacks work and potentially what investment the Port Authority may want to make in that to even increase their revenues even higher than just beyond the base lease of land.
Thank you.
Couple questions. Have you got some ideas or talked to anybody that you think would fit in terms of a catalyst project for this overall?
Not at this point, Noel. We are going to be looking at that as part of our phase 2, but we are learning a lot from our stakeholder interviews. We've conducted about 15 so far. We have about maybe another 20, maybe even 25 scheduled. But through that process, we're also grooming, and we're not selling. I don't want to say we're selling yet, but we're letting them know of the opportunity to get them excited. So we're going to be we're going to introduce ourselves to some of these potential catalyst projects, but nothing identified right now.
And also, we have a real traffic situation already on Daniels. So this morning I was truly amazed and backed up for 2 or 3 miles this morning. How is the traffic situation going to fit into this new development?
Yeah, it's something that we're going to have to study as well. We can't determine until we know kind of what our impacts to that are going to be from what we're going to be proposing. But again, as part of our stakeholder interviews we've had with Lee County Department of Transportation already, with Rob Price. We've also had a stakeholder interview with Sean Smith from the Boston Red Sox. And so we're starting that cooperation already because we're both going to be impacted from what's going to happen in the future and what they're going to be doing in the future as well. And we have an upcoming interview with the Florida Department of Transportation as well. So I can't quite say at this point what our impacts are, but we know that there is congestion on that road.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Do you have an estimate of when phase 2 will be completed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did have that in my notes and skipped over it. We are right now scheduled to, it'll probably be late October or November that we anticipate having phase 2 complete.
Go ahead.
By then?
Yes,
Complete, okay.
yeah.
Don, great presentation, really appreciate it. Have
Thank you, Kevin.
Ben, have you had an opportunity to fold this in and what your vision might be and what opportunities are there? I mean, I'm very interested, obviously, not only in lease opportunities, but obviously what type of situations we may be able to leverage, what opportunities may be there, what type of markets. I mean, this is kind of what I do for a living, so I'm just more curious about if you all had an opportunity. The presentation was great. I would have loved to see it a little earlier than just now. And no criticism, I just would have liked to digest that a little bit more as we fold this into your vision and what you see.
Well, this is really the first step, if you will.
Okay.
We're just getting started. This is really our first opportunity to get feedback from the board in terms of, is this the right direction to go?
Sure.
So this is certainly from our standpoint, a little bit of a redirection from what we were looking at for Skyplex. You know, our vision for Skyplex, you know, many years ago was, you know, more about office, you know, and campus. But if that's really not what the demand is and nobody's interested in doing that, it's really not a great vision. So what we've engaged obviously with Don and Gary is to figure out where's the gaps, you know, what does the area need? And this is what we've discovered. And we're certainly open to, you know, we're looking for feedback at this point from the board. Do we want to continue down this path and continue and get into phase 2? This certainly, from our perspective, we think these are tremendous opportunities for the area. I share some of the same concerns, you know, with Daniels. You know, I think we need to make sure that we address those first. I think the airport, these types of developments, Commissioner, I think are really going to help us diversify our income long term. It's something that we very much need. I think probably the biggest beneficiary at the end of the day for developments like this is the region, or I should say the county. At the end of the day, what we'll generate obviously as an airport is going to be very important, but the economic impact to Lee County, I think, is going to be the most significant. But it's important that we're doing it's the board's airport at the end of the day. We got to make sure that what we're doing in this particular gem, because this is a very, very important piece of property, that we're doing exactly what the board is interested in doing. From my standpoint, this is exactly what I'd like to see. But I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, Mr. Chair. Can I follow?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'd love to see us go to phase 2. I'd love to see the opportunities. The region has endless, and I think we need to understand, you know, what opportunities are there. If there are some impediments, how do we address those impediments? Work together, look at this regionally, because I think this is not only, you know, a great step, you know, for Port Authority, but for our region as a whole. I look at this as doing everything we want to, diversifying our economy, diversifying the mixes, you know, really trying to look at us differently than we did some 20 years ago, because
Right.
we have changed dramatically, and the evolution's just really starting.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. And really, the most simplistic way of putting this is we've learned through our experience that 1 + 1 equals something greater than 3, right? And that's really what we want to implement here, as just, you know, doing what has been done in the past. And there's been some reasonable success there, but we think that there's a much broader and better opportunity for Skyplex.
I couldn't agree more.
Could you go back just a couple slides? There was like that one summary slide that kind of had the different boxes. One more. There you go. Oh, that was it. The recommended positioning slide. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I think this is a great slide because it kind of brings home everything that you presented to us today. When you look at this, what do you think the low hanging fruit is? What will we see happen first?
Who would like to take? Oh, Gary's beckoned to be. He's looking for FaceTime and.
There you go. There you go.
Not so much FaceTime, but,
Yeah.
but you know, I do get excited about sales, so
Yeah.
that's the part that got my attention is what we see, and I think that Don has presented, what we see and what I think Don has presented very well is the diversification opportunity and the next generation of everything, which is moving very, very fast. So, you know, what's going to happen first? I think that clearly the land that is easiest to bring vertical will go vertical first. So certainly, you know, the air side and all the development from the old terminal is going to be that area is going to make sense. But quickly, the Daniels corridor and the frontage opportunity and the leveraging of the investment and infrastructure that's already been made makes it easy to start thinking quickly about the catalyst project and where and how that can drive the demand trajectory for everything else. So it's kind of like a convergence of the easy stuff to develop and the most needed things in the market. And when you look at it, I mean, it's likely going to be the catalyst project, whatever that ends up being. I mean, Commissioner Ruane, to speak to, you know, what we think could happen there. I mean, if you use your mind's eye to think of the most innovative opportunities for what office is going to look like, for what entertainment's going to look like, for what research and development and job creation in different areas is going to look like in just a few years from now, based on what's happening in our state already, those are the projects that are going to drive the demand and diversify the income stream.
I would like to follow up on that. The Catalyst project looked pretty interesting. If I'm remembering it right, it sounds like it'll be similar to a convention center hotel, but also have retail and dining and all that kind of thing with it. Are we going to be? I think there's some competition in that space, and I guess I'd like to know how we analyze what inventory is already out there in that space. When you look at what the Luminary in downtown has to offer, when you look at what I don't know much about the new Allegiant Hotel that's going on in the Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte area, what they're going to offer. But will we have some, and we even have Coconut Point, Coconut Point down there too. Will we have some competition in that space, or is this going to be something that is even bigger and maybe rises above out of that league?
Well, I think there's definitely going to be competition, and I think that's going to be good. But I also believe that from the research that we've done already, when you look at catalyst projects in and around other airports and its contribution to the growth trajectory and the region overall, it's going to be different. And we haven't gotten there in terms of the feasibility analysis. We just know that there's a big gap, which creates the opportunity. So it's going to take more visioning and crystallizing our visioning against our financial analysis, but there won't be anything like what we're envisioning and what the market is asking for in any of the other projects that we're talking about. It's not going to be a Las Vegas style resort with 20 restaurants like Sunseeker is going to be, and it's not going to be an ultra high-end destination location like Four Seasons is gonna be. There'll be a little bit of elements of all of those, but it's gonna bring a next generation job creator mentality with it.
Excellent. Okay. John, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk lately about AI. How does that play into all of this? And does it play into all of this? Artificial intelligence, yeah.
We've done a lot of research on, in our own company on the impacts of AI. Chris, you might want to speak in more detail to that.
And by the way, it was a very thorough and excellent presentation.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, this is Chris Latourner, who I introduced earlier as the CEO of MXD, and we're so pleased to have them as part of our partnership.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. When I stand next to Don, I feel really short.
We all look up to
Just stay
him.
up here on the stairs. Thank you for your comments and time today to share our findings with you. And AI, absolutely, we get very excited about that as it relates to technology and innovation. One of the case studies we looked at was Pittsburgh International Airport that has similar dynamics in terms of number of passengers. And they recently constructed an airport innovation campus called Neighborhood 91. It all revolves around additive manufacturing, specialized materials, artificial intelligence, even things like gamification and digital twinning. Now, just think of how that might apply here at Skyplex. We already have a nascent bio-life sciences sector that's evolving quite quickly. We have the university very close by. And if we correlate all that together, and then of course advanced air mobility that is starting to flourish throughout Florida, I get excited not just about the end game of where vertiports will go, but what about all the R&D to test out these kinds of vehicles, whether it's by air or by ground. And you know what's so nice about this diagram, I'm glad that you picked up on it. It sort of summarizes in green the sweet spot of the Skyplex opportunity. What we haven't done yet is prioritize that, but your question about the low-hanging fruit, I think, is very important. The low-hanging fruit that no one else has to this degree, other than some of the case studies we showed, is this incredible airside to landside interface. You already have the investment in aprons, taxiways, and believe me, it's not easy to get that all in place. That is already there to take advantage of and leverage. And when Don showed the diagram that looked like a beehive, that crossover of airside to landside is going to be part of the catalyst to induce companies that would need to not only move their people, but their products just in time, like perishables. So personally, I think, and I know you're already, Ben and your team are looking at temperature controlled logistics for the supply chain. That's an enabler that would be incredible in my point of view. The other one is that ties together with bio-life sciences and healthcare. You know, there's not only the tech office innovation side of that, but there's the movement of medical devices, bioproducts, much of which goes through the air to landside interface. So it would already start to identify not just being the same supply chain logistics we might see all up and down the 75 corridor, but how is it specifically only can happen here at Skyplex at RSW Airport as a competitive edge. And then of course, we'd love to see the clusters of activity that evolve around that. As Don said, 1 and 1 equals 3. I hope it equals 300 actually. Pittsburgh, we actually will be talking to Dave Storer, their VP Commercial Development, but I spoke with him on another project recently. And he said, you know, it's not just about generating the non-aeronautical revenue, that's important, but it's about regional economic diversification, as well as generating jobs for the region for all ages. So it's also in their case, everyone thinks of Pittsburgh as the steel industry, which sort of went sideways, but where they're going now, as I mentioned, is specialized materials, metals, composites, plastics, all these kind of things. Thank you.
Good deal. John, did you have a question?
How do, this is gonna increase employment. I just mentioned it's gonna go across the broad stream of young to older, et cetera. I didn't notice, and maybe this isn't part of it, but what do we do about looking at things like affordable housing, location, the location of that housing vis-a-vis the Skyplex? You know, less the economic and real estate and more the demographic of the workforce and where they're gonna locate.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. And personal frustration as well for me, particularly with, I guess, Skyplex. Because this land was purchased with FAA dollars, residential is prohibited within Skyplex.
Yep.
Personally, I think this is a perfect site for some workforce, affordable housing, if whatever you want to title it, to support the workforce that's not only going to be generated here, but in the area in the future. So while we can't address that directly within Skyplex, we're hoping that others might. And that might be something, and I know this was a topic of conversation with several of our stakeholder interviews with NeoGeonomics, as well as the Boston Red Sox. So everybody's struggling with this issue. And so while we may not be the catalyst, I think we could help foster some communication and support in trying to get that accomplished elsewhere.
Okay, well, that's kind of the thing I was thinking about, because I did realize we can't do residential within Skyplex. I guess the other question I have is, to what degree can that be changed? And that may be a staff question, I don't know who, but I think that's a significant problem in terms of what you're trying to look for with, you know, the economic development. You know, you gotta have people to do it.
So,
Are you
Kim, can I
saying
say something?
we can't develop residential in
No,
Skyplex?
not in Skyplex.
That's
No,
my-
we can't.
That's, no, my understanding is no residential is allowed within Skyplex.
So if I could, John, great topic, and you're right, we need workforce and everything, but the good thing about the Skyplex location is so close to Lehigh, so if you want more affordable housing, that's due to the traffic on Daniel. You'll see the traffic is because the affordable housing is east. Currently, you have Timber Creek east of this location, and you're gonna see in the future more housing development between the RSW and 82 sector of that, and also as 82 continues to go more south with the expansion of Lico Road, the county's already got being done now. You're gonna see westward, so the workforce will be coming from either Lehigh or Cape Coral, which creates our traffic nightmare. But the good thing with the vicinity of Skyplex is you're gonna have that housing there. And anything in north of it, for the higher paying jobs, you will see people looking more north to areas where you live or where I live, but otherwise you have the eastern portion of that for housing.
Yeah, Chairman, if I may, also, talking about the traffic and the roads, I think one of the most important things for, as this develops, that corridor road that we're talking about at the MPO, we're taking it from Alico all the way eventually to 80.
82, yeah.
Really tremendously will help our growth out here, right here, with traffic, because it spreads the traffic. You know, everybody that's coming out of Lehigh don't really have much options. So that's what really bottlenecks us at I-75. And I think when that road gets done, that would really help this project or this vision as well, simply because it gets us another way to get to the other side of the state.
That's
You know,
correct.
people now are using 80, you know, living out there and watching it, tremendous amount of traffic that you go, where's it coming from? Like, where could it possibly be coming from? That many people are not in LaBelle. They're coming from the other side of the state. Everybody's using that as a cut through. So when we connect that road to 80, then it'll divert a lot of the traffic more towards the middle of the state, not up I-75. So I think that would be a tremendous road.
And Mr. Chair.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think you nailed it on the road, the Alico Road extension. That's why I'm a big fan of it. I think because it will relieve Daniels and Colonial, absolutely. You know, I guess that was my question on the low hanging fruit too, was so certainly, yeah, I think if we zoned it for housing, it'd fill up tomorrow, right? I mean, housing in Florida just works. But I also think, again, in our area, because it's such a tourism driven area, I think hotel and retail also works here too. And so I do think that'll fill up pretty quickly. But that's why I kind of wanted to, I'm interested to see how this unfolds and how much we allocate towards all of that, because I don't know, I don't want to say protective, but I'm kind of protective of this land as a special opportunity for us to do the other things in that green box, the healthcare, the flex
Absolutely.
tech, the special, those are the things that I feel like we can do here. Whereas I feel like there's so much opportunity to do hotel, retail, dining in the county, because we're just always going to be that. I mean, that's why 11 million people fly through the airport every year. And so, I'll be interested to see the mix and how we put that together and bring it all. Because yes, there is definitely an opportunity, and the demographics do make a ton of sense for those things, but they do for the whole area. Whereas I'd like to see us make sure that we have a heavy mix of the stuff that is unique to the airport.
No question about it.
Yeah.
And Scott, just so you know, the FAA regulations on prohibiting residential is not just a Skyplex. It's a federal, it's a national issue.
I understand that, but it would seem that we could offer airport employees, an opportunity to have reasonable housing at a reasonable cost within earshot of their work.
I can't speak to what it would take to get those regulations lifted from FAA, so.
Well, I'm just gonna say, so, first of all, it's, the obvious is noise. It's just, putting housing on airport property, especially that close to a runway, is a compatibility issue that will be just an incredible nightmare for us. I'm just gonna be very, very honest with you.
So we're
The
kind of off to
idea,
the side.
the idea of Skyplex and creating all of those employment opportunities, because right now when you look at the average commute, we've all talked about average commutes and where people are driving 45 minutes each way to go to work. Create a lot of employment opportunities. In this part of the county, you are creating a significant, from all of the housing that has occurred, people that live in Lehigh, for example, or Gateway, you are changing the dynamics of the travel time, for these employees. So you're actually putting employment opportunities where the workforce is. But putting housing on Skyplex, I mean, it's just an incredible incompatible use of that property when you have a runway just a few hundred feet away from that. That's the challenge.
Yeah. All right. What other comments, questions, concerns, feedback?
I think you're looking for some guidance, obviously, you're looking for next steps. I mean, I like what we've seen here. I'm very familiar with Pittsburgh. I not had many people in my family, having grown up in the New York area, go to a small college down in Loretto, Pennsylvania, so very familiar with Pittsburgh, going back 30 years ago to where it is today. So that's a great analogy. Love to see the diversification. I think Commissioner Greenwell, as well as Hammond, identified some of the impediments. I'm looking at, here's the opportunities, here are some of the challenges and impediments. How do we kind of deal with those opportunities? But right now, unless we really look at this in its entirety and look at some of the opportunities and or some of the challenges you might have, I mean, that's what we need to do. And the diversification aspect, when I look at what Pittsburgh was and having looked at it as a steel place, and I'm old enough to understand that, but where it is today is just a transformation that I don't think, anyone could really envision. I'd love to see the transformation. And I agree with Commissioner Hammond, the hotel, tourist type things, we can literally almost put any place in the county and they'll come. We have to take advantage of this opportunity here and really start to fill in some areas that we don't have and we potentially could continue to grow upon, whether it's healthcare, whether it's tech. I mean, those are a lot of opportunities there. So I'd, love your presentation, love to get a copy of it, love to go to, what's our next step. Look forward to that. Thank you.
Just to follow up, Commissioner Ruane, on the hotel thing for clarity, we don't really see that the hotel rooms that would be demanded on Skyplex would be anything other than support for the rest of what is in Skyplex.
Sure.
So it's part of an ecosystem that would happen, that would really be contained in that area. So I don't want to think that I wouldn't want you to walk out thinking that we're talking about, or that the visioning or the data would support another, Hyatt, for example.
No, no,
Nothing
that's
like
not what I
that.
see at all.
So it's just gonna be internal support that's gonna create that or drive that value creation. Because when we go to a, meeting in another area for whatever it is, whether, or we working temporarily in other areas or whatever, we like the convenience and frankly, the amenities of a nice, comfortable hotel in close proximity.
Sure.
So with FGCU over here and all the other demand generators that we're creating, it's all gonna, we think, converge right at Skyplex, and it's gonna, in a big way, be driven by that catalyst project that we work to start crystallizing a vision on next.
Yeah, I certainly agree. It was really more the diversification, exiting that, not necessarily trying to, do more there. That's really what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, if I could just add to that too, uh, even speaking with the stakeholders locally, like Neogenomics, fantastic what's evolved with Scotland, Neogenomics, and Dr. Franz along the I-75 corridor, but it's not very pedestrian friendly. It's an island, and they've all said to us they would have loved to have been in an integrated setting, close to food and beverage amenities, hotels. And something that came up very interesting is, and this could be a catalyst project, but let's not think of it as a convention center, but think of it as a common use, multi-purpose meeting space that even has R&D wet lab space that all these companies can collectively use together to host regional as well as national events. So the way we'd like to look at it is it's bringing a new dimension in that doesn't exist today. Even when they have their sales teams in on weekly basis, they want to have them right close to where their offices are, not out at some of the big traditional resort hotels. So it's part of the model for the tech flex companies that we see evolving. And then I 2 points I wanted to mention. I love that you have the Pittsburgh connection. The other thing Dave Storr from Pittsburgh International Airport told us, which is actually Allegheny County Airport Authority that operates that, not too dissimilar to here being county led. He said, get the universities involved right away at the beginning because they'll be your biggest advocate. They'll help get state funding to make things happen, and they'll bring companies with them to incubate. And then on the housing issue, I've been heavily involved in what's called Aerotropolis Atlanta. So it's not looking at the lands on the airport with the city and county of Atlanta, but rather looking all around the airport. And that's where we see the exact issue you're talking about is affordable housing, workforce housing, skills training for even the basic occupations. And then a big one is mobility of how you get to your job. But the county might want to think beyond this assignment about the area around the airport and what's appropriate for where that kind of housing could go.
Any further questions or comments?
I think that wraps it up.
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Yeah,
in your email?
absolutely. Happy to distribute it.
Did a great job. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we've been able to not only share with you our studies, but our enthusiasm for this project and what it could become. It's going to be contagious as we go forward.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you.
Good deal. All right, if there's no further business before us, then we are adjourned. Thanks, Commissioner.
All right. It's fun.